Do you think that President Trump has done the right thing by recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital?
Well, Donald Trump has basically fulfilled his duty as President of the United States to carry out the will of the people. This is a decision that was made in 1995 by the U.S. Congress, which is the most directly democratically elected body, or representatives, I should say, of the American people. So this is what Donald Trump has basically just done what the American people have been asking him to do for 22 years.
I mean, based on all that, and then what we've seen over the last sort of 48 hours, I mean, what do you think what's the future in store now for the peace process, basically?
Well, I think the peace process is actually, and pay attention well to this because it's an unusual take on it, but it's actually been given a tailwind by this move because Israel Israel's capital is Jerusalem. It's been Jerusalem 3 times in 3,000 years. Since 1948, it's been the capital of Israel. Every Israeli of every background, Muslim, Christian, Jew, knows that Jerusalem is the capital. Our seat of government is there. Our parliament is there. So that's just it's a fact, and it's an historical fact, and it's a national fact. And this is what the American people have recognized. Now, for the peace process, it actually paves the way to peace because Israel will be called upon by the same Trump administration to make concessions to its Palestinian neighbor, which it will be much more ready to do now that a basic wrong has been corrected, which is to rightfully acknowledge that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. Now, that doesn't in any way prejudice negotiations between the sides, Katie, because at the end of the day, the two sides have to negotiate in order to come to an agreement. But a basic wrong, a basic injustice has been corrected, and frankly, the U.S. president has sent a very stern message to the Palestinian leadership saying no more demonizing the Jews about the Jewish state's capital, Jerusalem.
Well, we've been seeing some of the live pictures here, Dan. We've seen the clashes in Jerusalem as well as across Palestine. I mean, do you think, as well as the Israeli security forces, they're responding to missile launches from Gaza? I mean, are we going to see any escalation here?
Well, you know, what's being called a day of rage, Katie, among Palestinians, the Palestinian Authority looks, and the Hamas, of course, they look for any excuse to call for a day of rage. So, you know, the Hamas is in business to kill Israelis and to kill political opponents like the Fatah, and the PA uses the day of rage as an excuse in order to avoid making any headway on the peace process. Now, what I think that the Palestinian leadership would be very, very well advised to do is to not boycott the President of the United States or the Secretary of State of the United States or the Vice President, Vice President Pence, which the Palestinian leadership has already threatened to do. They are threatening to boycott the United States. Well, if the Palestinians want to wipe themselves off the face of the map politically, they should continue in this line of political violence as well as threats of physical violence. And I would suggest that they go back to the table and where they have Israelis with open arms and open hands willing to negotiate with them. But this is something they're going to have to learn to do and stop calling for days of rage and for terror and violence.
We'll leave it there. Now, just double check that I've got this right. Dan Diker, Project Director at the Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs. Thank you very much indeed for your time.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you so much.